We as a fandom have collectively misunderstood Jax, and now we are slowly getting closer to learning about his real side, because now that episode 5 came out, I think Jax has caused an even bigger surprise than Ragatha. And at first he acted just like we would have expected him to act, talking about how he'd kill Ragatha, shooting and then eating Gangle during the Poacher's Paradise adventure, blowing everybody up by putting a ticking bomb on Gangle during the adventure when Pomni was the president, and he also brought up the figurine thing again, which he already mentioned in episode 2 as well, to blackmail Gangle, which, by the way, judging by Gangle's reaction, I only grow more and more curious about, so please, Gooseworks, let us know what the heck happened with Gangle and that figurine, or maybe it's for the best that we don't know. Anyway, back to Jax. When the adventure switched again to the stargazing adventure, this is where things started to get serious, and to be honest, this scene had one of the rare moments where Jax showed a teeny tiny glimpse of himself when he asked,
"Do you think Gangle is actually capable of being happy?"
It seemed like a genuine question, and then Pomni reflected like all of us would have.
I didn't think you cared about what other people like.
I just... No, yeah, you're right, I don't.
And here we could see that maybe the reason why Jax is acting like a jerk all the time is because he wants to be contrary to Ragatha's toxic kindness. Because we can see that he's annoyed by how nice Ragatha is pretending to be all the time, and Jax is more realistic than that. He's very aware of their situation in the circus, like how they're all stuck in there and how utterly lonely that is. And he literally said that there is no point in pretending like this is all fine. However, I think this is pretty exciting, that he actually feels like him being real and keeping things exciting is basically his way of looking out for the others. Because if you think about it, with Jax, the circus members know what they get. Gangle gets tortured, Zubul gets teased, and Pomni is now also kept on her toes. But with Ragatha, they can never be sure, like when she's being honest or when she's lying in order to avoid confrontation. And this is really interesting because it changes everything, and especially how Ragatha also said that Jax doesn't have friends anymore, which I'm guessing meant that he had Kaufmo before as his friend, or maybe they had a slightly better relationship than Jax with literally anybody else. But we can see that Ragatha's comment hurt Jax. And now this scene from episode 2 also makes more sense, because maybe Kaufmo was the only person in the circus who actually appreciated Jax for who he is and what he could have given to him. Or maybe another possibility is that Jax's friend was this frog-looking guy whose name is Ribbit, according to Gooseworks. And with the abstracted eyes around them, maybe this was the friend Ragatha talked about. We'll probably see which one is it in the next episode, but with the other circus members, Jax's relationship is definitely more twisted. It seems like Jax doesn't want to actually hurt the circus members, because they cannot die in the circus anyway, and instead his method of taking care of them is by keeping them on their toes and sort of teasing them. But we can see that their company is important to him, and now with Pomni, he also wants to connect with her, and I'm thinking that this could be genuine. Okay, like maybe there's something else too, like maybe he wants Pomni to be his friend instead of Ragatha's, but I don't think that Jax's intention is that this way he could make Ragatha abstract. I think he just wants a friend who actually appreciates him, with his weird persona and messed up humor and everything he has as a baggage, which is also kind of interesting. And I think in episode 6 he's going to open up to Pomni, because in this episode he seemed to look for her company all the time. So I'm pretty sure that Jax secretly feels alone, and maybe he doesn't even understand why the others dislike him this much, because in his head he's only trying to help them. And it's kinda the same with Ragatha, where she's convinced that by faking happiness and positivity all the time she's doing good to the others, but we know that this is not true at all. And now that we finally know Ragatha's backstory, it makes perfect sense why she is the way she is. Her mother was abusive, so she had to be as small of a burden as she could, so that meant she had to push down a part of her personality, and that led to her being a people pleaser and essentially not true to herself. Now if you think about Jax, we didn't actually get to learn about his backstory yet, but it kinda seems like Zubul knows more than they tell, and maybe they knew Jax from before. Maybe Jax could have been someone who also worked at the bar Zubul worked at as a bartender, or maybe Jax was there as a customer, I'm not sure. However, his reaction to the maid costume was also pretty interesting, and it made me think about how insecure he seemed, and especially after how he talked about his physique here.
This is what peak male performance looks like. My ears and tail are kind of the pinnacle of masculinity.
So maybe he used to get humiliated as a human a lot, and maybe he was more like his shy self who was supposed to be evil, and that is why he's compensating now in the circus, but maybe he took it a bit too far. Maybe the friend Ragatha talked about, so either Kaufmo or Ribbit got abstracted because of Jax. Maybe Jax didn't want anything bad to happen initially, but then they started to push his buttons, like maybe they also made fun of Jax, like how he also makes fun of the others, but this time they could have made fun of one of his qualities that he's actually sensitive about. I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of red buttons for Jax, and if someone pushed that, then maybe he got so cruel that his behavior led to someone abstracting, and so when Ragatha mentioned that he has no friends anymore, that is why he got so tense, because maybe he feels guilty, but of course he'd never admit that. But yeah, this could also be the explanation of why he ran away from Kaufmo in episode 1. Maybe if he contributed to Ribbit's abstraction, who abstracted before Kaufmo, then when Jax saw that Kaufmo abstracted, he got scared and reminded of what he had done, and that is why he left the scene as soon as possible. And remember how Goosework said that we're going to see the most awful thing Jax has done. So what if it's gonna be a flashback to that? Because to be honest, I don't think that he's going to abstract anybody from the current circus members. I mean, Ragatha looked kinda sad and lonely at the end when she was looking at the others, but I don't think that she's going to abstract. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but the flashback to a previous member abstracting and Jax having to do something with that just makes so much more sense to me. And maybe the fact that his friend abstracted had broke Jax, and maybe he only got this bad and closed off after that. I think it's absolutely possible that Jax wasn't always this distant and mean. Maybe when he joined, he was more open, and maybe even him and Ragatha had gotten more along, and Zubul also seems to know more about him than the others, so maybe they also talked more, and Jax told them things, and then the abstraction accident happened, and that is when Jax went into a spiral and swore that he's never going to get this attached to anybody else in the circus ever again. And it seems like a reasonable explanation, and if only it was this easy, right? But since the characters used to be human, we know how it is. Humans crave connections, and no matter how hard Jax is fighting against being vulnerable, we can see his more humane side slipping out more and more, actually. And it's not only exciting, but also refreshing, because it means that he is not only an evil character, but he has some pretty interesting layers to him, which hopefully gonna get revealed in the next episode. We might even see his room then, which could also tell us a lot about him. I don't know how much he's gonna open up to Pomni, but maybe he sees a fresh start in her, because the others already have their opinions about him, but in this episode Pomni looked open to his company, and I can only hope that his interest in Pomni and her friendship is actually genuine, and it's not only because he doesn't want Ragatha to be her friend, and so instead he pretends to care about her only to hurt Ragatha. Based on the things I talked about, I think Jax is better than that, and he actually has some more complex emotions than just being evil, but of course I'm no psychic, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys thought about episode 5 and Jax's story down in the comments, and also stay tuned for more videos in episode 5. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.